Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I am Hira Mustafa with the top stories of this hour. Pakistan has urged the United Nations to probe the targeted attack on UN military observers by Indian troops along the line of control. In a letter to the UN Secretary General, Pakistan's Envoy Munir Akram said the attack is an Indian ploy to hinder the work of military observers. He said Pakistan has credible information suggesting that India is planning a false flag operation to take spotlight off its internal chaos. In Afghanistan, at least 9 people have been killed and 20 wounded in an explosion in Kabul. The Interior Ministry says the bombing targeted a lawmaker who survived the attack. No group has claimed responsibility for the attack. In India, farmers have threatened to block Uttar Pradesh border with New Delhi in protest against the new agricultural laws. The demonstrators are observing a Remembrance Day today to pay tribute to over 20 people who have died in the protests. Farmers have been protesting for 25 days now, demanding the Indian government to repeal the 3 farm laws. The global number of coronavirus infections has topped 76 million with more than 1.68 million deaths. COVID-19 cases in the United States are nearing 18 million with the countrywide death toll crossing 316,000. Brazil has reported over 50,000 new cases and 706 fatalities, taking the toll to over 186,000. Pakistan has registered over 2,600 new cases and 80 fatalities overnight, with the death toll crossing 9,300. And in cricket, New Zealand beat Pakistan by 9 wickets in second 2020 and also clinched a 3-match series 2-0. Tim Seifert scored 84 runs to help his team reach a target of 164 runs in the last over. Tim Southee was declared man of the match for taking 4 wickets. Well, these were the headlines. News in detail coming after the short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now the news in detail. Pakistan has urged the United Nations to probe the targeted attack on UN military observers by Indian troops along the line of control. In a letter to the UN Secretary General, Pakistan's Envoy Munir Akram said the attack is an Indian ploy to hinder the work of military observers. More in the following report.
Ceasefire violations by Indian troops from across the line of control are not new. 27 people have been killed and nearly 250 wounded in unprovoked Indian firing this year alone. But this time around, Indian troops deliberately attacked the vehicle of UN military observers when they were on their way to meet the victims of Indian firing. The observers, who remained unhurt, were evacuated by the Pakistan Army, but their vehicle sustained damage. The United Nations has confirmed that its military observers came under attack on Friday. The next day, Pakistan summoned an Indian diplomat to protest against the targeted attack. Pakistan's permanent representative to the United Nations has now written to the Secretary General and the President of the Security Council to hold a fair investigation into the incident. In the letter, the envoy said the UN must forcefully condemn the reprehensible attack. He said Pakistan has credible information suggesting that India is planning a false flag operation to take spotlight off its internal chaos. The envoy warned that Pakistan will exercise its right to self-defense in case of any Indian misadventure.
Azad Jammu and Kashmir President Sardar Masood Khan has condemned India's move to build the first military settlement in occupied Kashmir.
In a statement, Khan said India is grabbing the lands of Kashmiris to turn the whole Jammu and Kashmir state into its colony. Over internet ban in the occupied territory, he said India is trying to push the valley into darkness but it will not succeed in its evil designs. Meanwhile, Special Assistant to the Prime Minister on National Security, Dr. Moeed Yusuf, said India is trying to divert world's attention from its atrocities being perpetrated against Kashmiris in the occupied valley. In an interview, he said Pakistan is fully prepared to thwart any Indian aggression. Yusuf added, Pakistan stands for peace, whereas India's awful face has been exposed. The statements comes after India deliberately attacked United Nations observers in the line of control.
Now moving on to India, farmers have threatened to block Uttar Pradesh border with New Delhi in protest against the new agriculture laws. Thousands of farmers, especially from Punjab and Haryana states, are staging a sit-in protest along Delhi borders. The demonstrators are observing a Remembrance Day today to pay tribute to over 20 people who have died in the protest. Opposition leaders, especially Congress, Rahul Gandhi, also paid tribute to the farmers, calling them brothers and sisters. In a surprise visit to New Delhi, Prime Minister Narendra Modi yet again reiterated benefits of the laws without referring to the protest. Farmers have been protesting for 25 days now, demanding the Indian government to repeal the 3 farm laws. Nepal's president has dissolved parliament following a recommendation from Prime Minister KP Sharma Oli's cabinet. The move follows a months-long internal rift within the ruling party. In a statement, the president's office said the general elections will be held in 2 phases, more than a year ahead of schedule. President Bidya Devi Bhandari's office said the next vote will be held on April 30th and May 10th. It said the election scheduled was recommended by the cabinet following an emergency meeting. Oli pushed for a fresh mandate after the ruling Nepal Communist Party accused him of sidelining his party in government decisions. He had led an alliance with former Maoist rebels to a landslide victory in 2017. At least 9 people have been killed and 20 others injured in an explosion in Afghanistan's capital, Kabul. The Interior Ministry says children and women are among the victims, while the surrounding houses are severely damaged. The ministry said the bombing targeted an Afghan lawmaker, Khan Mohammad Wardak. It said the lawmaker survived the blast. Meanwhile, 1 person was killed and 2 others injured in an explosion in Badakhshan province. No one has claimed responsibility for the attacks. Meanwhile, the U.S. Special Envoy Zalmay Khalilzad has urged the warring Afghan parties to reach a political agreement as soon as possible. He said the U.S. stands with the people of Afghanistan in this war. In his tweet, Khalilzad condemned the Ghazni explosion, which killed 15 civilians 2 days ago at a religious gathering. He said the intra-Afghan war has lost its legitimacy with Afghans and it should move to a quick ceasefire. The envoy said the government and Taliban must respect demands of their people who yearn for peace and security. More than 42,000 refugees have returned to their homes in Nagorno-Karabakh since fighting stopped in the region. The Russian Defense Ministry said in the past 24 hours, 306 people came back from Yerevan to Stepanakert. The ministry said the refugees' buses have been escorted on their route by patrols of the Russian peacekeepers. It added Moscow's observation posts are deployed along the contact line and to the Lachin corridor. Azerbaijan and Armenia signed the Russian-backed peace accord on November 9th. Thousands of Israelis gathered in West Jerusalem to protest against Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. The protests have been continuing for the last 6 months. The demonstrators carrying Israeli flags and banners demanded Netanyahu's resignation. Israel's prime minister is currently facing corruption charges, including bribery, breach of trust, and fraud. He is also under fire for his poor management of COVID-19 pandemic, particularly amid second wave. Netanyahu has dismissed the allegations, denying any wrongdoing. Now moving on to China's military says the United States has severely jeopardized stability of the region by sailing through the Taiwan Strait. At a briefing, People's Liberation Army spokesperson Zhang Chenhui said the passage of missile destroyer USS Mustin deliberately raised the heat of the Taiwan issue. He added the warships attempted to intimidate Taiwan's independence forces. Meanwhile, U.S. Navy says its forces will continue to fly, sail, and operate anywhere the international law allows. U.S. President-elect Joe Biden has unveiled his climate and energy team. Biden described his latest picks as brilliant, qualified, tested, and barrier-busting.
United States President-elect nominated Michael Regan, the first black man to run Environmental Protection Agency. He also named New Mexico Representative Deb Haaland to be the first Native American Interior Secretary. Biden picked environmental lawyer Brenda Mallory to head the Council on Environmental Quality. If confirmed by Senate, she will be the first African American to hold the position. Former President Barack Obama's EPA Administrator Gina McCarthy will fill a new role as National Climate Advisor. Former Michigan Governor Jennifer Granholm was tipped for the position of Energy Secretary. Talking to media in his home state of Delaware, Biden said the nominees will be ready on day one.
The Biden-Harris cabinet, it will be historic. The cabinet that looks like America, that taps into the best of America, that opens doors and includes the full range of talents we have in this nation. And like the rest of the team, today's nominees are ready on day one, which is essential because we literally have no time to waste.
The U.S. and Mexico have committed to work on a human strategy to regional immigration. In a phone call, President-elect Joe Biden and Mexican President Manuel López Obrador vowed to address the root causes of immigration in Central America and southern Mexico. Biden's team said the two leaders discussed alternatives to undertaking dangerous journey to the U.S. In a statement, it said the president-elect pledged to build the regional infrastructure and capacity to facilitate the new approach. He also stressed the need to reinvigorate bilateral cooperation on COVID-19 economy and border security. In a tweet, Mexico's president said both sides reaffirmed their commitment to the well-being of the two nations. U.S. President Donald Trump's hardline immigration policies caused friction in U.S.-Mexico relationship. Ireland says it will be hard to reach a Brexit trade deal in the next 24 hours. Talking to media, Irish Foreign Minister Simon Coveney said the negotiations can collapse over an impasse on fishing rights. Coveney said they will not be surprised if the fishing issue collapses the whole negotiation, while the European Parliament has called for a deal to be reached to give proper time to ratify the agreement. Brexit trade talks are facing deadlock over fishing rights, and both parties are trying to reach a possible deal within 2 weeks. The global number of coronavirus infections has topped 76 million, with more than 1.68 million deaths. COVID-19 cases in the United States are nearing 18 million, with the countrywide death toll crossing 316,000. Brazil has reported over 50,000 new cases and 706 fatalities, taking the toll to over 186,000. More in the following report.
As the vaccines begin rolling out in the states around the world, daily COVID-19 deaths and cases are still devastating lives. In Latin America, Mexico City is suspending non-essential activities due to a surge of coronavirus infections and deaths that is quickly saturating hospitals. In the U.S., the past week has been the worst since the pandemic began. The medical system has been under a huge pressure. More than 114,000 people have been hospitalized with COVID-19, hitting a record high for the 13th day in a row. Meanwhile, Moderna has begun distributing its COVID vaccine, with trucks expected to start rolling out to more than 3,700 U.S. locations.
Distribution of Moderna vaccine has already begun. Moderna has moved vaccine from their fill-finish manufacturing sites to McKesson, who will serve as the central distributor. At McKesson distribution centers, boxes are being packed and loaded today. Trucks will begin rolling out tomorrow from FedEx and UPS, delivering vaccines and kits to the American people across the United States.
In Europe, France says its citizens can start receiving the COVID-19 vaccine developed by Pfizer in the last week of December if European Union authorities approve it next week. Scottish First Minister Nicola Sturgeon said travel between Scotland and the rest of the UK will be banned. This comes as the country grapples with a variant of the virus that scientists said is up to 70% more transmissible. Following this, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has imposed tighter curbs on millions of people and reversed plans to ease restrictions over Christmas.
First, we will introduce new restrictions in the most affected areas, specifically those parts of London, the South East and the East of England, which are currently in Tier 3. These areas will enter a new Tier 4, which will be broadly equivalent to the national restrictions which were in place in England in November. That means residents in those areas must stay at home, apart from limited exemptions set out in law.
Australia has announced new restrictions for the Greater Sydney area in an attempt to contain a growing outbreak of COVID-19. The region has recorded 30 new cases, taking the cluster infections to 70. South Korea's new coronavirus cases spiked by more than 1,000 for the 5th straight day to hit a fresh record high. In the meantime, India's COVID-19 cases have surpassed the 10 million mark and the death toll topped 145,000.
Now moving on to Pakistan, 80 people have lost their lives to COVID-19 over the past 24 hours. This takes the country's death toll to over 9,330. Health officials reported 2,615 new infections overnight. More than 40,000 active COVID-19 cases still remain in the country. The health ministry says out of over 457,000 countrywide cases, more than 407,000 people have recovered. The ministry said over 204,000 cases have been detected in the Sindh province, while Punjab has reported nearly 131,000 cases so far. And now it's time to take a short break. Stay with us. Welcome back. Now moving on to counting is underway in Thailand's provincial elections to mark the first test of democracy since the 2019 general election. The elections in the country's 76 provinces are the first under Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha. The recently founded progressive movement is competition in 32 of the 76 provincial administrative organizations. It is facing strong opposition from political elites of Hun Ploim family, which ruled the region for decades. Experts say the power is concentrated in Bangkok, which leads to patronage flourishing at the expense of forward-thinking policy. The elections are being conducted amid strong anti-government protests in the country. Venezuela's President Nicolas Maduro says the National Constituent Assembly will cease operations at the end of 2020. Speaking in Caracas, Maduro said the assembly is no longer necessary following the December 6th elections. He said the Constituent Assembly was convened to restore peace and to strengthen the rule of law. Slamming the U.S. curse, Maduro said the government supports the sanction-hit companies and individuals. The current parliament's term is ending on 5th of January. In Chile, hundreds of anti-government demonstrators took to the streets of the capital, Santiago. Demonstrators are demanding reforms to pension, healthcare, and education systems. The protesters faced down police and riot gear and blasts from water cannons. The South American country has witnessed protests for over a year now, calling for an end to inequality. Last month, Chile voted in a referendum to rewrite its Pinochet-era constitution. A massive cloud of dust has been witnessed in the areas of central Argentina. The country's National Meteorology Service has given yellow and orange alerts for the dirt storm. It has forecasted the speed of winds are reaching 80 kilometers per hour. Local media has reported that the strong tornado dust winds have blown off roofs and uprooted trees in the Santa Rosa region, but it said no damage was caused to people or property. A giant panda, Ruyi, in Moscow Zoo showed his impressive martial arts skills and defeated a snowman. The panda completely destroyed the snowman to earn his treats. The zoo workers say the activity was held to boost the Christmas spirit and to entertain the panda. They placed carrots and branches into the snowman to give him a task before a meal. Despite cute looks, giant pandas possess formidable force, with their biting power being comparable to brown bears. Ruyi and his female friend Ding Ding were given to the Moscow Zoo by Chinese President Xi Jinping in April 2019. Now moving on to SpaceX has successfully launched its final mission of the year 2020. The Falcon 9 reusable rocket carried a spy satellite into space on a classified national security mission. The launch for U.S. National Reconnaissance Office was originally scheduled for Thursday, but was delayed because of irregular pressure readings. The rocket's first stage booster was previously used in launch of 2 SpaceX cargo resupply missions. The company says Falcon 9 is the world's first orbital-class reusable rocket. Now moving on to the business stories, China's biggest chip maker SMIC says U.S. trade blacklist would adversely impact its research and development. It said the move would particularly hamper its 10-nanometer and more advanced chip technology. The chip maker said it did not expect the U.S. decision to have a major impact on its short-term operations and finances. The company added it would communicate with U.S. authorities and take necessary steps to reach a solution. Washington blacklisted over 60 Chinese firms, including SMIC and Beijing's drone maker DJI. Confederation of British Industry have expressed concerns over new COVID-19 restrictions. The business groups have called the new curbs as a real kick in the teeth for businesses.
In a statement, CBI's chief Matthew Fell said the move will hit businesses which were already struggling badly. He said the government must take a fresh look at how to support businesses through to the spring. Britain's car industry body chief Mike Howes said the third shutdown comes at the worst possible time. He said the businesses are facing close-of-year challenges as well as uncertainty and upheaval from the Brexit transition period. The British Retail Consortium has also warned that the consequences of the new restrictions will be severe. Earlier, Prime Minister Boris Johnson announced a new Tier 4 level of lockdown in London and southeast England.
Apple Corporation has temporarily shut all its 53 stores in California because of the resurge in the coronavirus cases. In a statement, the spokesman said they have closed 16 stores in the United Kingdom in the light of new introduced restrictions. The company said due to current COVID-19 conditions, they're taking the step with an abundance of caution. It said customers will still be able to pick up existing orders for the next few days. The corporation did not give any specific date for the reopening of the stores. Now moving on to cricket, New Zealand beat Pakistan by 9 wickets in second 2020 and also clinched a 3-match series 2-0. The hosts chased Pakistan's 164-run target in the last over. Tim Seifert scored 84 runs from 63 balls, while Kane Williamson scored an impressive 57 runs from 42 balls. Fahim Ashraf was the only Pakistani bowler to pick up a wicket when they dismissed Martin Guptill. Earlier, the men in green had chosen to bat first against New Zealand by winning the toss. Mohammad Hafiz remained top scorer for Pakistan with unbeaten 99 runs. In another cricket news, the big quick from rural New South Wales, Josh Hazlewood proved to be Australia's hero in Adelaide Test against India. Overshadowed by fellow pacers, Hazlewood stepped into the limelight with a blinding spell that humiliated the visitors. The right-arm medium-fast bowler bagged the most economical 5-wicket haul by an Australian bowler in 73 years. With 3 maidens in his 5-over spell, Hazlewood just conceded 8 runs. Together with Pat Cummins, Hazlewood wrapped up Indian batting lineup for 36, their lowest ever innings score. But a committed team man, the 29-year-old paid tribute to Cummins for taking the first 3 wickets.
I'm not too sure, to be honest. I think it was pretty similar to maybe Leeds. Looking back to the Ashes, we bowled them out for 60 odd, but yeah, it didn't change a great deal from the first innings. Probably just bowled a touch fuller, I guess, and maybe a touch straighter. But I thought Camo set the scene beautifully, and I sort of just followed suit. So yeah, but everything got nicked and everything went to hand. So one of those days.
And in football, Bayern Munich have beaten Bayer Leverkusen 2-1 in their Bundesliga encounter. Robert Lewandowski scored twice to help Bayern ascend to the top of league table with 30 points.
Bayer Leverkusen follow on second place with 28 points. In another Bundesliga fixture, Schalke suffered a home 1-0 defeat to Arminia Bielefeld. Fabian Klos netted Armenia's winning header in 53rd minute, securing 3 points for his side. In Italian Serie A, Juventus outplayed Parma 4-0 to maintain their unbeaten league start. Cristiano Ronaldo scored twice, with Kulusevski and Morata scoring 1 each to seal their side's comfortable win. Meanwhile, in Premier League, Liverpool thrashed Crystal Palace 7-0. Roberto Firmino and Mohamed Salah both scored twice as the Reds go 5 points clear at the top of the league table. In other league encounters, Manchester City downed Southampton 1-0, while Everton edged Arsenal 2-1.
In golf, Tiger Woods and his 11-year-old son Charlie teamed up for the PNC Championship in Orlando, Florida. The 20-team field consists of major champions and winners of the Players alongside a family member. Team Woods was 4 shots back of the lead after the first round of the 2-day exhibition event at the Ritz-Carlton Golf Club. The duo opened the championship with a 10-under par 62 that left them in a share of 6th place. Charlie Woods emerged as the youngest and most anticipated competitor in the tournament's history. Though the duo cooled down on the back 9, Charlie still produced some notable moments.
I've seen this, all along. Probably not, a lot of people have, but a lot of the shots that he's hit, I've seen it back home at medalists this entire year, this entire pandemic. He's hit these shots, and the junior events he's played in, he's hit a lot of these, and it's just a matter of it. I'm stringing these out for 3.5 hours. It's it's a totally different deal.
In sailing, light winds have forced One-Day America's Christmas Cup to be abandoned. One of 4 races scheduled for today was able to kick off, only to be abandoned after exceeding 45-minute limit. Race officials called off the day's racing after abandoning the race between defenders Team New Zealand and Team Ineos UK. Races cannot start unless the wind is a minimum of 6.5 knots. The Christmas Cup marked the final day of competitive sailing before America's Cup Challenger Series from January 15 to February 22nd. TNZ will now not race again until America's Cup on March 6 to meet the winner of Challenger Series. Now it's time to have a look at the weather update across the globe. For the latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.